I remember reading that. Call to order the regular meeting for the Marion Common Council. Today is March 19th, 2024, 7 p.m. And I will begin with the prayer. Lord, we just thank you for everyone being here tonight and ask that you give us wisdom and discernment in our decisions and that you bless this wonderful city and just give us more guidance as we navigate bringing life back to our city here. So, Lord, thank you so much. Hope everyone has a safe ride home and bless this body. Amen. Jim Brunner will be doing the Pledge of Allegiance.
Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, roll call.
Kane,
Here.
Marshall, Fordyce,
Here.
Brunner,
Here.
Klein,
Here.
Devine, here, Witten,
Here.
Cowgill,
Here.
McKinley.
Here. I will note that Councilman Marshall did let me know he wasn't going to make it tonight. He is on vacation. We'll move on to the neighborhood spotlight, and tonight it's Historic Marion, and I'm going to let Councilman Kane do the introduction.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the absolute pleasure of introducing two fine women that I've had the pleasure of working with over the last several months through Main Street Marion, the applications through Main Street Marion. It's now called Historic Marion. And I want to introduce Miss Kelsey Winters and Miss Sue Bratton. If they would come forward and explain where we're at in this process and a little bit about Historic Marion.
Absolutely.
Welcome. If you could just hit the red button for the microphone.
Perfect. Well, absolutely. We're so happy to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation to come speak to you all this week. We hope that what we're able to share shed some light on what Historic Marion is, the exciting work that we're doing, and what we've been able to do so far, which is really exciting. I am Kelsey Winters. I am the interim president of Historic Marion, and this is Sue Bratton, our secretary. I would also like, well, Sue, I'm going to ask Sue to hand out, we have a helpful handout sheet for you all to give you a little more information about our organization. And I'm going to take a second to introduce a couple of additional board members who are here with us this evening. So at the back of the room, we have Ann Cole-Morgan is a member of our board. Megan Mathias is a member of our board, and Bill Munn, who just walked in, is a member of our board as well. So we're very grateful to be working with such a great group of people. We really have enjoyed doing this process together as a board. The handout in front of you will be referencing in just a couple of minutes. It also includes our mission and vision as an organization. We thought that would be a helpful reference for you to have, just to have a little more information about us. And it also has some contact information and our website at the bottom of that page, in case you would like to learn more. So Sue is going to give us a little more information on the founding of our organization and what we've done so far.
So last summer, SOS, the Historic Preservation Group, was very interested in having Main Street in Marion again. So we did a lot of research, what was going to be required of us to do that. As it turns out, we had to develop a whole new organization, and that is Historic Marion. We started in late October, so this has really been a whirlwind for all of us. Historic Marion is a registered 501c3 not-for-profit, and in the last, 5 months, we have created bylaws, we have created vision statement, we have created a mission statement. We've done everything you have to do to have a viable 501c3, a viable organization. So our first step was to send a letter of intent to apply to Indiana Main Street. They accepted our proposal to become part of Main Street. Then we had to do the application to be part of Main Street. And that was quite an experience for all of us. Kelsey estimates that we spent over 200 hours on the application. We had a lot of tasks to accomplish to apply for the network, one of which was to do a building inventory. We inventoried all the buildings starting at 7th Street, going to the river, from McClure Street to Boot Street. We have 120 buildings. Most of them are over 50 years old. Many were built in the late 1800s, which makes Marion a prime candidate for Indiana Main Street. So the way that it works with Indiana Main Street, they have 3 levels. The one that we are in, which is the first level, it's like kindergarten Main Street, is called Okra's Downtown Affiliate Network. And we are just getting started. We have a work plan for a year so that we can really get our feet on the ground as Historic Marion. There are in Indiana 112 main streets. There are 3 now in Grant County. 76 of those are in this ODAN level, the Downtown Affiliate Network. In our cohort, the people who were selected to become part of an ODAN this year, there are 8 other communities, and those are Alexandria, Linton, Middletown, New Carlisle, New Haven, Paoli, Poseyville, and Shoals. So you can see they're from all over the state. After a while, you have to be an ODAN for at least a year. So Historic Marion will do that. And then I would guess that in a year's time, the board of directors will evaluate whether it's time to apply to be at the next level. The next level is called Indiana Accredited Main Street. And as you will figure out, as you move up in the Main Street levels, you have more responsibilities, you have more challenges, you have more reporting to do. So, and I was really pleased when I was reviewing the requirements for the ODAN. Historic Marion there are three out of 4 standards of performance that you have to have. We've got all 4. So we have a developed mission and vision statements. We have a comprehensive Main Street work plan. We possess a historic preservation ethic, and we have an active board of directors. So I think we're ahead of the game today. Tomorrow it might be a different story, but today we're doing pretty well. So after the second level, the Indiana Accredited Main Street, and I think there are maybe 17 or 18 main streets that are at that level. Then the final level is the National Accredited Main Street, and that's when an organization is really top-notch. They are fulfilling all of the requirements. They're going above and beyond, and they are affiliated with at the national level with Main Street. So what did I miss, Nancy?
I think you covered it very well.
Okay, I'll be around if you have any questions.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sue. Hopefully that gives you a little more information about where we're at, what we're doing. If any of you don't know what Main Street overall is, it's a national organization and kind of structure for nonprofits that are dedicated to downtown revitalization. So that really is the heart of who we are, what we want to do is work on revitalization for Marion's downtown. I'm just going to go ahead and read our mission and vision statements, which are on the sheet that we handed out for those in the room who didn't receive a sheet. That way they can hear it as well. Our mission is empowering the future through the preservation and celebration of its rich history. Historic Marion fosters a sense of place, economic growth, and enhances cultural vibrancy in downtown Marion. Our vision, empowering the future through the preservation and celebration of its rich history. Historic Marion fosters, oh, well, that's the same one. I will send you all our vision another time. Sorry about that. So our goal is sense of place, economic growth, cultural vibrancy in downtown Marion. We already have all of those in some measure, but our goal is to build that out even further throughout hopefully the many years that we're going to be growing as an organization. Our goal is to really kind of dig in and help Marion feel like a place where people want to be. Things are going on downtown. We really believe in the best that downtown can be. Now, the National Main Street has a structure that they have outlined for the way that Main Street organizations work. So I included that on your sheet as well, and it is called the 4-point approach. The text that is written out on your sheet on the handout is pulled directly from the Indiana Main Street webpage on OCRA's website. That's the Office of Community and Rural Affairs, which runs Indiana's Main Street program. They basically, they categorize community transformation efforts into 4 different points. And the structure for a Main Street organization is that each of those points becomes a standing committee focused on furthering the goals of each of those areas of focus. So those are organization, promotion, design, and economic vitality. So I'm happy to be able to share that we actually already have standing committees for each of those 4 areas. We're working on building those out and seeking additional committee members. Those will be largely formed by volunteers, but are being led by board members on those committees. And I'll let you all read the definitions of those committees on your own time. The Indiana Main Street website has some great resources as far as videos and handouts go that can explain that a little more in depth for you if you'd like some information on that. And then finally, I just wanted to close by saying, sharing some of the upcoming projects that we have going on. So we are very focused right now on building a very strong foundation for us as an organization. Main Street really kind of wants you to spend your first year as a foundational year really solidifying your organization and your ability to enact change in your community. So we're working on some of those internal things. We're working on building out our board, getting really strong communication channels and policies in place. And we also have several upcoming projects just in the next month or 2 that we're very excited about. So we are hosting Eclipse-a-Palooza on April 8th in downtown Marion. It's going to be at Ballard Field from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. We have live music scheduled. Hack My Market will be setting up a vendor market there. And we are going to have a weather balloon launch done by Near Space Education. It's going to be a really great opportunity that hopefully brings in outside people into our downtown, and it's kind of going to be our introduction to the broader community. We're very grateful to the mayor and the city of Marion for partnering with us on that, as well as Hoosier AM/FM has been a great partner for that as well. We're very excited to have their help with that event. And then the other thing that I wanted to highlight is that we, with the support of the mayor, are going to be filling the downtown flower pots around City Hall, around just all of downtown, all of those large flower pots we will be helping to fill. The city has been very generous in providing the flowers, the bulk of the flowers for this year. We're currently accepting donations from community members to help sponsor getting some additional flowers to fill those out really well, and hope to grow that in the coming years as well, just to really make sure our downtown is as beautiful as it can be. So we're very excited about that. That will be happening in May is when those flower pots will be filled. So with that, that concludes what I had to share. Does anyone have any questions or anything that I can clarify from the council? Yes.
Might want to mention your dinner.
Oh, that is,
That's a different society.
Oh, okay.
yes, yeah. It's a very good problem to have that we have so many history-focused organizations in our downtown area, yes.
Not so much of a question, I guess more of a statement that very impressed that you guys have only been together for a few months and you've got all of this together and man, I don't think it'll be long before you'll be part of that national, and you've got great board members too. So
Absolutely.
is there, like, you're talking about some of the buildings, is like 50 years old? Is there like a point where it qualifies for historical, or has it got to be 100 or?
Yeah, that's a good question. We mentioned the 50-year mark because that is one of the measurements that they utilized in our application for Main Street. They wanted us to know how many buildings in our downtown district are 50 years old or older. As far as qualifying for specific funding or status or anything like that, I don't know of anything. Do you?
No, I don't. I just think it lends weight to when you say you have a historic community, that you have this many buildings that are over 50 years.
Yes.
Okay.
We have the data to prove it. And we are working on one of our goals for this year that we hope to achieve by the end of the year is to really kind of tidy up that document of that inventory that we did so that it can be a resource to share with the downtown community
Need to see that. Yeah.
with information about all of our downtown buildings.
It has historical research included in it,
Mhm.
you know, about the architect or builder of the building, original use of the building. And it also has photographs. We partnered with a class from Indiana Wesleyan who came one Saturday and took photographs of all the buildings.
Over 100 buildings.
Wow.
We took multiple photographs of each one. So we have the biggest spreadsheet you've probably ever seen.
It's
with
the
all
biggest
that
we've
data.
ever seen.
It's the biggest we've ever made, that's for sure.
Well, good. Yeah, it's impressive. And I don't know if it's just buildings. Mr. Kane will be 85. Is that?
Yeah.
Thank you, girls.
Absolutely, thank you. Any additional questions that we can answer?
Yeah, how can more people get involved with your organization, and how can we as a council help support you?
Oh, we love that question. Yes, so I'll start with the first part of your question. We do have an up and functioning website. We have social media pages we're trying to keep updated. So I would say connecting with us on those platforms is a great way to learn more, be involved. Those understanding that those things are under construction because we've only existed as an organization since October. On our webpage, we do have a volunteer form up where we're inviting people to sign up if they're interested in volunteering, putting in some time in our downtown. We're still formulating exactly what we want our volunteers to do, but things like Eclipse-a-Palooza or things like the flower pots are going to be projects where we need hands and we need investment, as well as sitting on those committees. So those are really great ways to get involved. We also are encouraging donations. We feel very grateful that we have inherited the bulk of the funds from Main Street Marion that were left in the bank account from that organization. The bulk of those funds have come to us, and we're expecting more of them to come to us once that organization is officially dissolved. But as far as the council's support, speaking with people in your districts about what we're doing would be very helpful for us, especially if you hear people talking about downtown or the state of downtown, encouraging them that there is progress. There are people who really care about its development. All of you, I would assume, are those people, but we are too. So letting people know that our organization exists. And there may be times when we're looking to partner with the city or with the city council on projects, either through funding or additional promotional support. The city has been an amazing partner for that so far for us. So just putting a bug in your ear, there may be times when we're coming with a project and saying, hey, we really want to do this. We really believe it will be helpful for our downtown, but need a little additional support for that as well.
So of course, we're all, supportive, but, as you know, our Councilman Kane is our designated liaison. We believe so strongly in historic Marion that we have our own Councilman Kane that is a liaison for you guys. So of course, contact any of us if you need anything. But Councilman Kane,
Absolutely.
actually, he wanted to be the liaison
Yeah.
because he believes in it so much. But so we appreciate that. But any other questions?
If I could add just one thing, if nobody has any additional questions, if any of these council members would like to see our work plan for our first year, if there are any materials, that building form spreadsheet that we talked about, if there are any materials that we've talked about today that you would like to see, we are more than happy to send that your way. If you just let us know, probably through Councilman Kane, we're more than happy to share that with the council. We are really dedicated to transparency and collaboration as an organization. So if you have any additional questions in the future, would like to see any of those pieces, please just let us know.
Well, we appreciate you coming tonight. Really appreciate all the time you put into your organization. I'm sure it's mostly all volunteer, and it's citizens like you that are invested in our community that are really going to turn it around. So thank you so much, and appreciate you coming tonight.
We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay, we're going to move on. There's no first responder spotlight this evening, and we're going to move on to the approval of minutes from the regular meeting, March 5th, 2024, and I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Vice President Cowgill, a second by Councilman Klein. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Kane,
Abstain?
Fordice,
Yes.
Brunner,
Abstain.
Klein,
Yes.
Devine. Yes. Witten,
Yes.
Cowgill,
Aye.
McKinley.
Yes. Minutes have been approved. Move on to the consideration and ratification of pre-approved claims. I would entertain a motion.
I so move.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Kane, a second by Vice President Cowgill. Any discussion? No discussion. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Kane,
Aye.
Fordice,
Aye.
Brunner,
Aye.
Klein,
Yes.
Devine. Yes. Witten,
Yes.
Cowgill,
Aye.
McKinley.
Yes. Pre-approved claims have been approved. And moving on to consideration of claims, I would entertain a motion for the claims.
Mr. President, I move that we pass. Second.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilman Kane and a second by Councilman Witten. Any discussion? All right, Madam Clerk, roll call.
Kane,
Aye.
Fordice,
Aye.
Brunner,
Aye.
Klein,
Yes.
Devine. Yes. Witten,
Yes.
Cowgill,
Aye.
McKinley.
Yes. Claims have been approved. Moving on to committee reports. Do we have any committee reports? Councilman?
Thank you, Mr. President. Several items from the March Aviation Board meeting. Obviously, I've sent you all a copy of the airport's economic impact report, and I think it shows that the airport, this editorial comment, that the airport doesn't just serve Marion or Grant County, but it's actually the region around us that it serves, and it's quite an asset we have. Other business, there was regular runway and equipment. Equipment maintenance continues. The flight training schedule is booked up. The schedule is full. As to water and sewer for the airport, Board Attorney Kyle Persinger was told by County Commissioner Mark Bardsley that although there's not a final commitment yet, the county is considering $500,000 for the project to take water and sewer out to the airport. There have also been talks with City of Marion officials, and the next step is meet with the County Council, the Redevelopment Commission, to discuss possibly using TIF money to take water and sewer out there. And final item, I sent you a flyer. Dwight Ott, who's a local businessman and pilot and a member of the Aviation Board, hosts a monthly gathering that he calls Hangar Talk. Next one is 10 a.m., April 20th, in his hangar, Hangar C. And the airport designer, Ryan McCloskey from Woolport Engineering, is going to talk about the airport's 5-year improvement plan and more about the economic impact that may have newer information than what I sent out. I thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Klein. Any other committee reports?
We had a traffic commission committee today. I had a report on the flashing light at, what is it, be Spencer and Kim Road right there by GM, that it's a red and a yellow. And I guess a lot of the neighbors are complaining that it's like a highway through there and wanting to know about possibly making it a red flashing light all the ways to try to slow down. So that was what was brought under consideration today in the traffic commission meeting.
Was that Spencer and Miller?
Or Miller, what'd I say?
Okay, Spencer and Kim.
Oh, no, the other
Okay.
Kim, Miller.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, gotcha.
Yeah, Miller, sorry.
All right, any other committee reports? Councilwoman Devine.
The Board of Works met yesterday. Yes, yesterday. And went over a number of things. They held a public hearing to sell one of the city's properties that a neighbor had been mowing and maintaining since they had demolished the home on it. And there was no one at the public hearing, and I believe that was passed for them to be able to make that purchase. And then there was a couple of bid openings. They opened the bids for the Riverwalk Trail asphalt overlay, which is roughly on average 8 feet of overlay for the whole length of the Riverwalk. And so they've taken those under advisements. Looked like the apparent low bidder was Scotts Grant County Asphalt, but I know that they had to review that and make sure everything met to standards of the specifications. They opened the bids as well for the new street signs, one for just creating the signs and then one for the actual installation of the signs. And I know the pricing for the install was quite a bit higher than expected, so I'm not sure what direction they're going. I assume we'll get a report on that at the next meeting from Mike Graff.
Do you mind, can you share those numbers?
Let's see. For actually creating the street signs, I said it was approximately 2,400 signs. The low bidder was a company named Stello, and it was roughly $65,000 for that. And then for the placement of signs, the apparent low bidder was Dave's Excavating, and that was at $281,000 roughly to do the install of those. And there was different levels in that for if they were just putting them up on the poles, if they had to actually replace poles, or if they had to, there was one more level, which I can't remember what it was off the top of my head, but that was all specified out to be able to do those roughly 2,400 signs. So like I said, that was quite a bit higher than they anticipated as far as the install of them.
So theoretically, the signs could be purchased and the city could install it if, say, they didn't want to pay that much, correct?
That was my understanding, yes. It just would take a whole lot longer with having such a small street department working on that. So I think they were trying to find different methods to get all the street signs replaced and find out which one was most economical and most efficient for the city. So.
Great. Anything else?
Then the only other thing was NDOT purchased a little piece of city property for some additional right of way that they needed on a project on 3rd Street in Branson. So, but that was it. That was the whole meeting.
Thank you, Councilwoman Devine. Any other committee reports? I'll go last. I did have a Grant County Economic Growth Council board meeting this morning, and no major updates other than Our new executive director, Chuck Binkert, is hoping to be able to start by the end of April. I know the Marion Utilities has been searching for his replacement. They've had some candidates and they're going through that process, but he did let us know that if everything goes smooth, he's hoping to be able to start full time at the Growth Council by the end of April, beginning of May. So really excited about that. And also we had a redevelopment commission meeting, but nothing major out of that. We're still kind of laying the groundwork there. So no other committee reports. We'll move on. There is no unfinished business. And so we'll move on to new business. First one being the appropriation ordinance 8-2024, and it is a first reading.
An ordinance of the City of Marion, Indiana, appropriating certain funds for the City of Marion, Indiana, and providing for the effective date thereof. Speaking, Mayor Ronald Morrell, Jr.
Well, hello everyone. I'm so excited to be here tonight and speak to such a great and esteemed council. This is, Marion is very unique in a lot of situations, and some of them are very special, and some of them are not as special. And one of the ones that kind of fall in the latter category is that we have to go through a process of multiple appropriations to spend out of our edit fund, which is great because we have such a great relationship. But this is where we are today to ask for an appropriation out of the edit fund to fund some projects for blight, street signs, parks project, and allow for other miscellaneous projects when they come forward. So I like the one that I'm most passionate about is the addressing of blight, and I have with me tonight our building commissioner, Commissioner False Knight. So for questions, I would love to start on that. If you have any other questions while he's here around what the money that would be going to be spent to address the blight, I would love to have him while he's here to come and answer those questions if you have any.
Excuse me, if he could just share.
Yeah.
Good evening, council members. I'm here tonight with the mayor for appropriation to demolition of two large buildings that we can't do. One of them is a church on 29th Street. The size of it prohibits us from being able to use our equipment to do it. They're too tall of structures. The other one is at North Washington Street. Again, this structure's so tall. It's right next to another building within about 6 inches of the existing building. And a lot of this is going to have to be demoed by hand. We don't have the manpower to do it. And again, we don't have the equipment. To do this type of equipment, we would need what they call a long reach excavator that reaches up to 60 foot or so to be able to do this safely. So that's one of the reasons that we are asking for this money. Another aspect is that we would like to purchase a smaller excavator. The one we have now is very efficient. We're able to use it on many structures. As you can see around the town, we've been really busy doing a lot of demolition work throughout the city. However, there's areas within the city that we can't get this big excavator in, especially down some of the alleys. We have garages that need tore down. That's been approved by the Board of Works. However, we can't get the machinery in there because it's too big. We could use a backhoe, but the backhoe is too small. So we'd like to get a mid-size excavator to be able to provide this service to the citizens and to move forward. And also, at the same time, if we did have a second excavator, we would be able to use it on multiple job sites at the same time. We'd be able to use it at the same job site. For instance, station number one, fire station number one, when we get ready to do a demo down there, we'd be able to use this two excavators and help the process move much quicker. And so This is basically why we are here asking for this additional equipment and money to provide services to the city. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have concerning our request. I invite each of you to come to my office, look at what we've done in the past, see that we are very motivated with the new administration, with the new mayor. He's very, very motivated about blight in the city. So in keeping with his reality or his realm of what he thinks he wants and what we can achieve, that's why we're here. We want to move forward as quickly as we can.
And let me just add, I try to send as much updates as possible via email, social media. This team, our code enforcement, our building commissioner's department, and really our police are all working together like at this. I push people very hard, I know I do, but they're working at a very rapid pace and tearing things down. I don't know if you've been seeing the updates that are coming out, they're tearing things down crazy fast, from houses to cleanups. And we want to make sure, because with this method of Clean City Marion, we want to make sure we do everything we can to support this and get our city cleaned up as quickly as possible so we can start moving on and try to figure out how we can bring new things and turn our city, into a clean city that we all know and love it can be.
Anybody have any questions for Commissioner Fosnight? Councilman Brunner?
Question for either the mayor or Mr. Fosnight. I've had people, especially lately, ask me about the old Y building. Is there anything that is in plans for that building, Mr. Mayor?
Oh man, we can get touchy really quick. So let's no, that's a good question. That building was purchased in a tax sale for what I believe to be $200. So the building is not owned by the city, and then I would love to own it and I would love to tear it down, but we would have to go through that process of acquiring it back from the owner of that person in a tax sale.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Commissioner Fosnight? Thank you, Commissioner, for coming tonight.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I wanted to clarify, I don't think it's been said, but the requested amount is $700,000 to transfer from the edit fund to miscellaneous contractual services. So I just wanted to put that out there. So,
and I do like mentioning this. We all know, and the council knows, and we know. So this edit fund traditionally is, which stands for Economic Development Income Tax, is traditionally in all of the cities in the state of Indiana allotted by the mayor to use for what is believed to be economic development. Right now, we're in a situation where that's not the case. So we go through the process where we have the first reading and the public hearing to allow for my office to be able to expend these funds. The process is great. I love the relationship, but we're going to get to the point, I think, with the relationship and the trust, which is where some of the element of this is coming in, that we're actually going to do what we're saying we're going to do. And what's amazing about our council and how our bill process works is every purchase that we make comes across our city council, so they get to see and see what's going on. I just want to get that out there for the public. And this is money that we already have, and it's not like I think it's not like some kind of new creation of pulling money from the sky. This is money that's already in our budget. We just have to get it appropriated because it's currently not appropriated.
any questions, Councilman
Well,
Klein?
and that I presume is something that will be addressed at budget time.
Yes, I met with our financial advisor, which is Major Tilly, actually yesterday, and we're planning to start our budget process in April and hopefully have a version of it to the council by the summer. But we can't fix that yet until budget time. Right now, we have to go through this additional appropriation process for those funds to be expended.
Do you know what the fund balance is for the EDIT fund?
Yeah, so I'll give my controller's not here, so I can't give like to the cent, but our monthly allotment is $122,000 each month. So that's about $1.4 million a year that come into this fund. If we didn't spend a dime more out of this by the end of this year, we would be at I think it's 1.9 million and some change. So that's where we are. So as of right now, by the time this goes to our second reading, we'll be at around 800,000 and some change. But then we'll continue to accrue at the 122,000 a month.
So essentially, some clarification, this amount is amount that was collected last year. Most
Yes.
of it was collected last year.
Mhm.
I will say that I'm in favor. I think this is good timing. It gave us as a council time to establish that trust with the mayor's office. The mayor and his office has done nothing but provide us every document we asked for. All of the claims have been scanned. We get to see everything that's being spent. So even this appropriation for this amount, all of this money, where it would be spent, the council has oversight. We get to see where it's spent. And so if we were to approve this, this is a one-time allotment. Once this 700,000 is expended, it's back down to, they still have to come back and ask if it's over $1. And of course, we can address that at another time. But this is a one-time allotment. Once it's gone, it's back down to requiring another request or appropriation over $1.
Right, and that's again, additional clarification. That doesn't mean the fund is at zero. That means I have to ask again for more money. Yeah, so we're not running the fund dry. Yeah.
Thank you. I want to be misunderstood. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Just anything else requested after the 700,000 would have to come back to the council.
Right. Yes.
Just want to make sure the public was aware as
Mhm.
well. Any other questions, council members? Councilman Fordyce?
Mayor, have you taken the repaving of the walkway and Charles Mill Dam, which is part of this? Have you taken this before the park board? And because they've never came to us and requested this, they have to approve that.
Right. Yeah, I actually have learned that, and then our park director Rose brought that to the parks board at the last meeting, so they are aware of the project. When we haven't started anything yet, so for them to vote on it would have to be they'd have to see all the bids, etc. So I'm still waiting on all the bids to come in.
Yeah, so they actually have to come to us and present it to us. The
Okay.
park board has to approve it before we can appropriate it,
Mm-hmm.
because the park is non-reverting fund and it has to go solely to the Parks Department to be spent exactly on that.
Yeah. Okay. So
the board has got to approve it first, and then with Erica bringing up that they don't even have the paving approved for the walkway yet, so the board doesn't even know that they've got a bid that's approved yet.
Oh, so the walkway wouldn't be in the park. I thought you were just talking about the Charles Miller walk.
I'm
So
talking about both. The walkway, repaving the walkway is part of the Parks Department.
no, so that wouldn't fall under the Parks Department. But you are correct in the fact that Charles Park would. But regardless of both of those things, for us to even start that, we still have to get, because it's both above our bid limit, we still have to get bids. So we are still a ways out for us to be able to actually expend the funds toward this. But what this appropriation is allowing us to do to even will be considered expending those funds on these projects. So it's not like that we approve this and I go spend all the money tomorrow. Like all these projects probably might take almost the rest of the year, but this allows us to get going.
And do you have any idea what the 150,000 miscellaneous is going to be used for?
Good, yeah. So what that is just to be frank and on record, this allows me to address things that may pop up without having to wait a month for to come to the council. Because right now, for example, I wanted to do a language matters study, which essentially is we'll go through all of our city documents and our information and translate those to Spanish for people who are different language speaking, to make our city so they can understand what's going on in our city government. And that was a simple expenditure of like $4,800, and I couldn't do that for a whole month just to spend just that amount of money, because there's no way for me to do it without having access to this fund. So when miscellaneous things pop up like that, again, and I'm not a secretive person at all, so if the council has any questions, we'll continue to address that and as we go forward. But this just gives me a slight amount of flexibility to it unhandcuffs me, to be just completely frank.
Any other questions?
I'd like to see each item broken down and see where each appropriation is going to go, instead of just being a blanket 700,000. Because like I said, the parks is non-reverting, which means that's all it can be used for, the same way as the paving fund.
So I have a question on that. So speaking of the basketball court, say you move forward with it, and this money would be appropriated into miscellaneous contractual services. This may be where your controller could answer this question. If it gets approved through the Parks Board, could the money for that project be then transferred from miscellaneous contractual services to the Parks Department to handle the building of that park?
Yeah, because then it's in our miscellaneous contractual services, then we can use it at that point. I hate to say anything, but we can use it for that. Yeah.
That made me think of that.
But it has to be specifically appropriated for that. I mean, if you put it into miscellaneous contractual, he can spend it for anything he wants.
Well, see, I'm very well aware of that, but I'm telling you here on record, that's not the case. So I'm explaining what we want to do with it. Yeah, so that's where the element of trust comes in, Councilman Fordyce, is I'm telling you I'm going to do this. So if I do something else, then you can say, well, he lied to me and lied to everyone. Right?
No, I'm not saying
Yeah.
that. I'm just saying,
Mhm.
you know, on the last appropriation, which was over 700,000 for streets and miscellaneous upkeep on the maintenance of the city hall and stuff, we had it broke down to where we knew exactly what was going where.
Mhm.
And the appropriations were split up, like for the ADA fund for the council people, the lobbyists. I'd just like to see it broke up a little bit more, because if it's going for paving or Parks Department, or the appropriations should go for just that.
Yeah.
I mean, and we don't even have approval on the bids yet from the Board of Works on the paving and the signage. I mean, we've got 65,000 on that, and then we're gonna install them, or Dave's is gonna install them. So I guess they're gonna have to come back and get additional appropriation if Dave installs them.
I do understand your contentions on that and respect it. However, I think what's happening is this is making me, or you're putting stipulations on me that no other mayor in Marion history has had, or any mayor in the state of Indiana. What I'm asking for is this money that is supposed to be, as you know, it's supposed to be able to be used by the mayor. And this is really a trust exercise, right? If I'm explaining to you and telling you that's what we're going to do with the money, I'm hoping and really at this point asking for the chance to show that you, the council, and the electorate of the city, that I'm trustworthy. So I'm just asking for that.
So on the walkway, where you say that doesn't come under the Parks Department? So what department does that fall under?
Street.
You're saying it comes under citywide maintenance?
Yes.
On the walkway?
Yes.
So it has nothing to do with the Parks Department maintaining it?
Right. So if something goes wrong on the walkway, our street department goes and takes care of that.
When that comes out of the Parks Department's funds to maintain that, correct?
So, for example, somebody sent in a request that one of the trash cans were torn apart, and we sent our street department out there, and they paid for it. They did the physical work, and the budget to replace them came from their street department budget.
Right. So just to clarify for the public, I walked the whole walkway from Washington Street all the way through the park. Who deemed it necessary to repave it?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up. I run the walkway pretty often as well, and a lot of younger people and older people run the walkway. And if you spend enough time, especially running, you might susceptible to lose an ankle at any point in time because of the various dips and the various cracks along the walkway. And just to be honest, I don't want to get my exact year incorrect, but it was installed somewhere between 93 and 95, maybe 96. So nothing sustains in great condition for that long, especially asphalt, as you know. So at this point, I think that with the walkway and even Leland and Matter Park being one of the city's main attractions, we're at a point in time where we must invest in what we have to make it even better. And I think we're beyond the point of just letting it just exist because it's just okay. I think if we can double down and take care of what the previous administrations had invested in, then now we can actually put our dollars into making what the city of Marion has and champion those things even better. So that's where that's coming from.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. But I am saying that it's supposed to go before the Parks Board first, and then they're supposed to come to us and ask us for the appropriation.
And we can still do that. I mean, so again, this is just appropriation to release money from the edit fund, saying that I do want to use the money for that. So if the process, what you're saying is true, the part will go before the Parks Board, then it will come to the City Council before the funds are expended. So we're not going to circumvent that process. And I appreciate you for bringing that up. This is just the money being released to use for that project when that time comes.
I'm not sure we can release it unless it's specified. I mean, additionally, before we had specific appropriations for this, and the park board is supposed to come to us first. So it's not a trust issue. I'm just saying procedurally, we're supposed to, with the park board, they're the ones that recommend it. They're the ones that bring it to us, and then we appropriate the money. So, I don't want to do it incorrectly. Has nothing to do with trust, but the park department and the road department is non-reverting, has to be used explicitly for that. And I'm not saying that he's not going to, but we don't even know what the bids are going to be yet, because we've only got one from Scott's and the Board of Works hasn't even approved it yet. So, I mean, it could be more, could be less. That's just my opinion.
So idea to that, if that ends up being the case, that the Parks Department has to appropriate it and they can't appropriate it out of miscellaneous contractual services. It's just using an example for the Charles Mills basketball court. I think some preliminary numbers. What are the preliminary numbers on that so far?
At $50,000.
So worst case scenario, they want to move forward with that project and our hands are completely tied and we cannot pull any money out of that 700,000 edit fund. At that point, then I believe I would ask the mayor to come here and ask for an appropriation out of there's more money going into the edit fund the rest of this year. You could always come back and ask it in that method. This request, he's giving projects that he wants to fall under. But also, my opinion is it is a trust exercise. We do get to see what he gets to spend it on. The mayor has done nothing but provide the claims 3 months in a row now, so we do get to see that. The citizens of Marion also get to hear about what he's spending it on. So I hear what your issue is. I would just say once we get all the attorneys involved and make sure that we're crossing our T's and dotting our I's in that process, and they all say, no, we need to do it a different method, then that ties the hands of the mayor and help to come back and go a different method, and this money wouldn't be able to use for that. So I agree with you. If we can't do it that way, then we shouldn't. Appropriating this today isn't automatically putting it toward that project. It's putting it in that contractual services to be able to use for those types of projects, so long as it's done the appropriate method. So that's just my take on it.
But you realize you're circumventing the park board because it hasn't even been brought before them yet.
So the mayor's, from what I'm hearing, the mayor's telling us projects he wants to do that could possibly be used or completed out of this $700,000. What I'm saying is, if we're not going to circumvent the park board, if the park board wants something, they can come to the council. If we can't pull that from miscellaneous contractual services out of that 700,000, then the mayor would have to come to us and ask to pull it from a different fund. At that point, we can say yes or no. I believe I'm correct when I say that. So essentially, if you're correct, then the mayor might be tying his hands and not being able to do that project if we can't appropriate out of that 700,000. So in fact, it actually would probably hurt the mayor more if we couldn't do that. But I do think we would need to get some legal advice, make sure we're appropriating things correctly to the park board. Like I said, if we can't do it out of that fund, mayor comes to us, asks it from a different fund if a fund's available, and we say yes or no at that point. But I agree, we should not circumvent the process. This is just a general appropriation that allows the mayor to move quicker on projects. So my personal opinion, I've witnessed the mayor and then in his vision, I share a lot of the same vision, and there's a lot of things that he wants to do are coming at him pretty quickly, that, waiting a month, 2 months sometimes can really impede the process of getting things done in this city. So I hear what you're saying. I agree. Let's do it the right way. But this doesn't tie our hands and circumvent the Parks Board.
Well, I think there's some other things, and like on demolition and equipment for the citywide maintenance. And, you've got a lot of stuff lumped together in this one sum. There's some things I agree with. There's some things that I don't. You're wanting to put this before the council, and you either pass the appropriation on everything or vote against it. I'm just saying that I don't know what the big rush is if we send it to budget committee, and get things separated and see what we have to do and what we need, and get the park department's opinion on it. And some stuff I agree with on demolition, and some stuff on the walkway, I don't think it needs completely resurfaced. I think it could be resealed and maintained. And it's non-reverting. Park department is non-reverting fund. That's the only thing it can be used for, Charles Mill. And if you can't use that, then it's got to be specifically used for that. Let's take some time and look it over and see exactly what we can do and what we can't do.
Mr. President, thank you for the time to speak here. Mayor Morrell presented us with this copy dated March 19th, which is today's date, 2024 council presentation on the things that he wanted to do with this roughly $700,000. All of it, except for maybe a couple items here, are all economic development items. Now, the last 2 years, to give you a history of during the past administration, I made the motion the last 2 years to reduce the edit fund down to $1 because we had issues with the past administration. Let's be frank. That money out of the edit fund was spent on anything but economic development. There was a split vote at that point in time, those last 2 years. Didn't have any problem. Some people didn't have any problem with the administration at that point in time spending it on things that we had no idea what they were spending it on. They didn't have any idea that they were spending on. What we found out is they had spent $1 million on a contract that they didn't even know what it was for. So I decided the last 2 years to reduce that fund down to $1 to protect the taxpayers, because that money was not being spent for economic development. This document right here is all economic development. And I appreciate that, Mayor, that you are transparent on the things that you want to do, that you're being very aggressive towards blight, towards the reconstruction of our streets, our sidewalks, our river walk, our parks, being very aggressive. The edit fund money is not a savings account. It's the money that needs to be used for economic development. Now, when I made those motions the last 2 years, coming into this administration, Mayor, I tied your hands by doing that. We didn't know what administration was going to be taking over at the beginning of the year. So I made that motion last year to protect the taxpayers, because we did not know where that money was being spent, and we could not get the documentation of where that money was being spent. They refused to give us the documentation. So just to give you a history, there's some new people in the audience. They need to know the history of where this came from and why the mayor now feels his hands are tied, and they are somewhat. I will take the responsibility of that, But at that point in time, we had to protect the taxpayers. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Kane. I will add on to that, we have a new mayor. That's very economic driven. And, Mayor, if you would have come to me in January and asked for this, probably would have been a no. Because, we trust but verify. That's our job here as the council. And my take on it is the mayor has done nothing but provide transparency, meets with council members anytime, gives us documentation on what he's asking for. We have the ability to see what it's being spent on after the fact through our claims process. The administration has not missed one opportunity to provide us with the claims. So for me, it's my trust but verifies. I'm trusting. And of course, we'll continue to verify. That's our fiduciary responsibility as a council. But at this point, with a $700,000 request, sure, not all of it is specifically appropriated to one particular item. But it does give the mayor the opportunity to use that for more economic development without having to cut through red tape and bureaucracy of the council. Because historically, as Councilman Kane said, the mayor just normally has access to it at any time. And almost every city in Indiana, that's the way it's set up. Marion was an anomaly, dropping it down to $1. I wasn't here on the council. I'm not going to speak to that decision. I think that would be inappropriate, but I can speak to the last 3 months on this council as being council president. And I have no reason not to trust the mayor and his administration to spend this wisely and appropriately, and also to use their legal counsel to make sure that they're following all the laws and regulations and municipal code when they do spend that, and whether that's doing it for a park project and making sure the Parks Department follows their procedures and comes to the council. I think that's the expectation. So I will stop there. Anybody else have questions? Vice President Calgo.
Yeah, I just kind of want to piggyback on Mr. Kane. I was on the last council when we did take that down to $1. We have had in the past that we have asked for some kind of proof, a document, anything to where this money was being spent to the tune of millions of dollars. And we would get no answer, or just, we don't have to provide that to you. Under your administration, Ms. Galt, our current controller, has not only done that, they show us to the penny where every dime is being spent. Total transparency. It's like night and day. You put the right people in the right positions, it makes this totally different. And the people that deserve it the most are our citizens. It's their tax dollars that they pay. It ought to be total transparent. We ought to be able to know. They ought to be able to know. I very much appreciate you and Ms. Galt's efforts and what they have to go through. And I encourage each council member now that go get a hold of Ms. Galt, set up an appointment to go up there and look at what they have to go through. They spend days on these to get these receipts and these vouchers and everything out to us, but they're doing a phenomenal job of it every single week of it. And there's no questions on where any dollars being spent whatsoever. Mr. False Knight up there in his office, I'm glad that they're asking for another excavator. They've been going at unbelievable pace. They need more. They need a lot more men, a lot more equipment here. We all know that. But to do what they're doing with it is, it's just a night and day. And I very much appreciate everything.
Thank you, Vice President Calgo. Anybody else?
Mr. President, if you're ready for a motion.
I would entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I move that we send appropriation ordinance number 8, 2024 to a second reading and public hearing.
A second.
We have a motion by Councilman Kane and a second by Councilman Witten. Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Kane,
Aye.
Fordice,
No.
Brunner,
Aye.
Klein,
Yes.
Devine,
Yes.
Witten,
Yes.
Cowgill,
Aye.
McKinley.
Yes. Appropriation Ordinance 8-2024 will move on to the second reading at the next regular meeting. And we're going to move on to the TIF presentation. And we're going to welcome Andrew Mauser from Baker Tilly. What's that? My apologies, I was reading off the paper.
Nope.
Welcome, Greg.
No, you're
Just
fine.
hit the
Thank you
red
so
button.
much.
Is it the red button on?
Yes, I think I got
Thank
it. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Yeah, my name is Greg Balsan, and I work directly with Andy Mauser with Baker Tilly Municipal Advisors. And who we are, we help municipalities with budgeting, capital planning, bonding, TIF, just really anything with finances related to a municipality. And what I'm here to do today is talk through a TIF management report. It's a TIF presentation that I handed out before the meeting here today. And what this is a redevelopment commission report that's required to be due every April 15th. So this is reporting on what happened within the prior year. This goes out on the Indiana Gateway site that's available to the public. So again, this goes through the redevelopment commission onto that site for every community that has TIF areas every April 15th. If you see slide 2 here on this presentation, what you can see here is all the RDC reporting requirements. And right, again, we're here on April 15th for the TIF management report. Historically, this has not been required to be presented to the council. This is a new, in the legislature, this is new for this year. So that's why we are here today to kind of present this to you, show you what happened in 2023. You'll see the other deadlines that are coming up here for the redevelopment commission. By June 15th, there has to be a pass-through determination to determine if there are any excess TIF revenues, excess TIF assessed value. In the fall, we'll do the TIF neutralization process, which brings up base values. We can get into that here in a moment. And then December 1st, another new requirement for this year, the RDC has to submit a spending plan to the Department of Local Government Finance. And lastly, annually, redevelopment commissions have to give a TIF presentation to the overlapping taxing units to show kind of what are our revenues, what are our expenditures, how do we plan to spend the money, those kind of things. And we typically have done that historically for the redevelopment commission in the fall. So kind of moving to slide 3, kind of what is tax increment financing, otherwise known as TIF. So what TIF is an economic development tool where there's an area that is established that is determined to need economic development, and the TIF money that is generated within that area can be used in serving or benefiting that area for various expenditures. This slide here on slide 3 here at the top kind of shows a chart of how TIF works. So when a TIF is created, it is set at the base assessed value. That means all of the net assessed value of those properties set the base. Anything above and beyond that that's generated over time is called the
Excuse me,
incremental.
sir.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify. You said page 3, but it's on page 2. If you're
Oh,
looking.
yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, page
Make
2,
sure everyone's
slide
on the
3.
Slide,
Yep.
slide numbers, it's either 3, 4.
Okay, yeah. But we're on page 2.
Page 2, slide 3, correct. Yep. For TIF here is the incremental assessed value. So the growth over time above what the value was at that time. That's incremental AV. That is what is captured by the TIF to generate dollars for the redevelopment commission and the city to use for various economic development purposes within those areas. Once a TIF expires, all of that assessed value then flows through to the tax base. Moving to the bottom of page 2 or slide 4, again, purpose of TIF is to finance incentives or infrastructure needed to induce private investment, to encourage orderly economic growth in targeted areas, to redevelop blighted areas. And then, as you can see a note here, new businesses that occur within a TIF area still pay property taxes on their investment. It is just really a matter of on the back end, it's how that money is distributed. Moving to page 3 at the top here, we are looking at who are the redevelopment Commission members in 2023, and you can see that there were 5 members and 1 non-voting school board member. That was Steve Smithley was the president, Ed Merchant, vice president, Deb Kane, secretary, Robin Faust was member, Karen Madry, member, and Todd Nicholson was your non-voting school board member. On the bottom here, page 3, slide 6, kind of starts a summary of the city's allocation areas. The city has 6 economic development areas and 15 allocation areas. An economic development area is the boundary where the TIF money can be spent. The allocation area is a smaller boundary within those economic development areas. That's where the area that actually generates the money is located. So again, economic development area, when you hear that term, that's where TIF money can be used. So you can see here a variety of TIF areas with those various establishment and expiration dates. Over the life of TIF within the state of Indiana, there have been different rules as to when TIF areas can expire. For example, back in 1995, it was a 30-year TIF life. In 2008, that kind of changed to a 25-year TIF life. And where we're at today, if a new TIF area is established, that is it exists for 25 years from the date any bonds are issued payable from that area. So just to explain some of the differences and why there's different expiration dates for these areas, it's going to change over time. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. Forgive me for interrupting, but I'm looking at this and I see the 5 Points TIF has a none under expiration. How's that work?
Yeah, great question. So as I just mentioned, so areas are established after roughly 2008 do not have an expiration unless bonds are pledged from that area. So they can expire. A redevelopment commission can choose to expire that area if they have no projects to complete. But yeah, it would not have an expiration because there's no bonds pledged for that. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for pointing that out. So again, this slide and then the next slide on the next page go through a list of all of those 15 allocation areas that I just mentioned and their various expansions as well, ranging from the 5 Point Small TIF area, State Road 18, Dollar General project site. Again, just kind of going through the consolidated area and most recently the Thompson American Resources allocation area that was done in 2023. Moving to the bottom of page 4, slide 8. This goes through what the finances were in 2023 for the Redevelopment Commission. And just want to note here that you can see the total here for all of the allocation areas was about 7.9 million of revenues and about 6.45 million of expenses, again, for the calendar year 2023. You can see that some of the allocation areas, the money just comes in and goes right back out, and that's for various bond payments. And then there is a surplus because there's no bond payments specifically from that area. So those can be used for more general economic development items that exist. You can see, for example, one of the largest generating allocation areas here is the State Road 18 West EDA or CIE. That was at about just under $1.7 million of revenue, just to give you kind of an example there. Moving to page 5 at the top there, slide 9. This starts kind of detailing what those expenses were. So it goes through the various bonds that are outstanding, as well as other expenses like professional services. You can see that on slides 9 and 10 here on page 5, that totals that 6.45 million and just goes into some detail of how that money was spent. For example, some principal on the 2013 CIE bond. They're in the middle of slide 9, $445,000. So again, a variety of debt payments as well as other services that were used for economic development purposes in these TIF areas. Moving to page 6, at the top there, slide 11. This goes through the 4 fund balances that the Redevelopment Commission has with the city. Again, multiple TIF areas make up the TIF allocation fund. That balance at the end of 2023 was $5,548,156.98. I do want to note that that was the balance as of 12/31, and a variety of debt payments have either January or February bond payment dates. The way revenues are received, just with property taxes, TIF, some comes in the summer, about half, and then the other half comes in December. So then those bond payments are typically made a month or two after those. That's when they're set. So bond payments were made here in January and February to spend down some of that balance as required. There's 3 other debt service reserve funds that you can see located there. For example, the Cafe Valley Series A1 DSR fund has a balance of $882,275. Those debt service reserve funds are required to maintain over the course of a bond and are really a backup security if for some reason the TIF wasn't enough to pay those bond payments. So when that bond comes due, that money can either reimburse the TIF account because that bond will be no longer outstanding, or it can be used to make the final payments on the bond. So that is, again, the city and RDC's money. It just has to stay in that account until those bonds are matured. There are no housing TIF allocation areas. As you can see there, we put NA. So this is a more recent development within the state of Indiana, residential or housing TIF areas. Traditional TIFs cannot capture residential property. So the value that's generated from homesteads cannot be captured under that 1% circuit breaker cap. There are TIF areas now that can be established called residential or housing TIF areas. And again, the purpose of those is to capture that value to then spend on homesteads, spend on things to increase residential development in the community. But just want to note, the city does not have any of those as it stands now, but that is a newer tool that communities have to offer. The last slide I have here on slide 12 is all of the debt payments that were made in 2023 and the various balances of those debt obligations. As you can see here, there are 13 different obligations that are paid with TIF revenues. And you can see that those range from paying from the consolidated EDA, as well as University Marketplace, State Road 18. And then again, most recently, you'll see down there the Thompson American Resources bond of $44.9 million that was issued. I do want to clarify that bond because that is what we call a developer purchase bond. And what I mean by that is they are reimbursed with the TIF money that they generate in that area. So if for some reason that development weren't to happen as it's expected to, there would be no bond payment made. The city does not have another backing on that. So if that project does not go forward as planned, or if it changes at all, that may not be the bond payment is what I'm trying to say. It's really what they put into it is what they get back out of it. So I do want to note that, whereas the other bonds are more traditional obligations that where the city or RDC received money to do a specific project and has to pay that back just like any sort of loan you would think of, that's operating a bit differently. So, again, that's all I have for you today. Just wanted to, again, present on what happened in 2023 for the Redevelopment Commission. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Greg. Anybody have any questions? Looks like you did a phenomenal job presenting, and
Well, I appreciate
everything
it.
is super clear. So we appreciate you coming tonight. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to the next agenda item. BZA, it's the Board of Zoning Appeals Council appointment opening. It's more of an announcement. So there's a 4-year term that the council gets to appoint one member to the Board of Zoning Appeals. And that should have been last year, March of 2023. That didn't happen. So we're just kind of getting caught up on things. So this opening for the Board of Zoning Appeals is to complete the term to March of 2027. And just some information, the meetings are the second Tuesday each month, 3 p.m. here in the council chambers. The applications, it's a paper application. You can pick one up here if you're in the audience and would like to apply. There's some applications up on the podium. Otherwise, if you're watching online or you know somebody that's interested, you could stop by the city clerk's office. I know you close at 4. What time do you open? 8. So 8 o'clock a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. You can pick up an application at the city clerk's office. The application deadline is going to be Tuesday, April 9th at 4 p.m. So all applications must be submitted to the city clerk by April 9th at 4 p.m. And the council will then make their choice at the following council meeting. It'll be the second meeting of April. the council will vote on their appointment to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Make sure I don't miss anything here. I will say, and Mr. Moon has previously served as the council appointee. I did let him know before the meeting, but speaking with the clerk's office, starting today through the appointment that we make, our seat will sit vacant on that Board of Zoning Appeals. So there's nobody from today to our second April council meeting when we select that person to fill that seat. So that seat is vacant on the Board of Zoning Appeals until then. And that's all I have for the Board of Zoning Appeals council appointment opening. Any council members have questions or comments on that? Okay, we're at the end of the agenda. I will say I will not be at the next council meeting. It's spring break. I had a pre-planned trip, so I will be out of town. Vice President Calgill will be the presiding officer at the next council meeting. And for those watching online, I have arrangements with the city IT department to continue streaming those. If by chance you are watching on or trying to watch online to the next council meeting and it's not live, have no fear that it's being recorded and it will be uploaded within a couple days when I get back. So that's for the people watching online. We want to continue to get this out to the public. But that's all I have. Any other council members have anything to add? Okay, I did get handed this to Grant County Historical Society Annual Dinner. That's what Mr. Councilman Brunner was speaking about earlier. April 17th at the Tomahawk at 6 p.m. So just wanted to make that announcement. That's all I have. If no one has anything, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilman Kane and a second by Councilman Witten. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Kane,
Aye.
Fordice,
Aye.
Brunner,
Aye.
Klein,
Yes.
Divine,
Yes.
Witten,
Yes.
Calgill,
Aye.
McKinley.
Yes. Meeting is adjourned.